Without further ado, I really will kick it over to Marcy. I see some folks still joining. So I just want to reiterate that we will be putting an evaluation form in the chat about 45 minutes in. That is the way you're going to be able to get credit for this course. Please take advantage of doing so. Otherwise, you will not get credit for this course. You do need to be here for at least the majority of the time, which we're allocating about 45 minutes. All right. Marcy, over to you.
Thank you, Marielle. And I just want to thank all the sponsors. It wouldn't be possible without our sponsors, and I'm very happy to be here. Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Avoiding 25 Common Mistakes Boards Make and How Managers Can Guide Them in the Right Direction. We're going to go over some best practices today, and the purpose of this session is to help both board members and community association managers build stronger partnerships and avoid common pitfalls. I really love polls. So for fun, I wanted to throw out some polls and get some feedback to see what your thoughts are on some certain topics. So 1, what do you believe is the most common mistake condo and HOA boards make when managing community resources? So go ahead and fill that out and let me know what you think.
Oh, I know what I would choose.
The most common mistake. Is it inadequate budget planning, poor communication with residents, lack of transparency in decision-making, neglecting maintenance priorities? And then
Marcy,
we'll move on.
I have a hint.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
I have a hint. In my opinion, one of those causes the other 3. That's my input on that one. That's how I would answer that.
Oh, they're all intertwined, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I was just talking the first one. Now on to the second one. Sorry to interrupt.
No, I love it. I think you're absolutely right. And look, I've been a board member on my HOA board for years, and it's common for us to all make mistakes, and we learn from them. So today we're going to go over some of the common mistakes, and hopefully you'll come away with some information that'll help you communicate more effectively, work more as a team, and hopefully you'll be able to develop some strategies for better governance and decision making. So how confident are you in your association's ability to effectively address resident concerns and feedback? Very confident, somewhat confident, not very confident, not confident at all. So let's get a pulse on how confident you are to address your residents' concerns.
So while folks are filling out that second one, when we end the poll, right now we have 112 answers out of 176 people that are here so far.
That's
and then
great.
The third question is up as well. What's that third one?
Okay, let's talk about the third one. Which area should managers prioritize to help condo and HOA boards improve their governance? Implementing effective communication strategies, providing training on legal and regulatory compliance, enhancing community engagement initiatives, or streamlining meeting processes and agendas. So let's see what we get from this.
We'll let it go for 20 more seconds and then we'll end the poll.
Okay.
Guys, while you're finishing up, we have a couple of questions about the chat being disabled. The chat is only available for us to send information to you. You will not be able to use the chat to send information to us. If you have a question, please use the Q&A function, but definitely click on the chat icon so that it opens, so that as we are sending information to you, that it's there and it's available and you know where to find it. All right.
So while we're waiting, I just want to say that on behalf of Hotwire, we are a telecommunications company and we provide high-speed internet for those of you who don't know us. And we provide television services, phone services, specifically to community associations like yours. So it wouldn't be possible if I didn't have Hotwire supporting me on providing these informative webinars.
Absolutely. And they're lucky to have you as a not only an employee, but as a wonderful instructor for this stuff.
Well,
So,
thank you.
Marcy, that first question, what do you believe is the most common mistake condo and HOA boards when managing community resources? And the winner is the one I would have chosen. What would you have chosen, Marcy? Poor communication with residents was the winner.
I would
39%.
say, I'm really big on communication. I would say definitely poor communication. I agree with our audience.
With our audience.
Absolutely.
And I would argue that that one causes the other three. I would argue that bad communication can lead to inadequate budget planning. It can lead to lack of transparency in decision making, and it can lead to neglecting maintenance priorities.
Absolutely. Those are all interrelated. Great job, everybody. Thanks for answering that question.
Second one is, how confident are you in your association's ability to effectively address resident concerns and feedback? And the winner is, everybody's saying, somewhat confident. So so when you combine somewhat and very, we have 87% that are pretty confident. So that's a pretty good number.
I would say it's because they're participating in these types of educational events. So obviously they've taken the initiative to learn more, to build their confidence.
And then the last one, then I will shut up so you can get on with the slides. Which areas should managers prioritize to help condo and HOA boards improve their governance? And the winner is implementing effective communication strategies. So we see what the theme is here.
Communication, communication. So I want to thank everyone. This is the first time I'm giving this class and the first time that I've presented polls. So I hope you like it. And I really appreciate you taking the time to answer those questions. And it gives me a clearer picture of what we need to focus on today. So for those of you who don't know me, I am the Director of Community Association Relations for Hotwire Communications. Like I said, I've been on my board for over 20 years. I managed associations for over 20 years. I'm also a contributing writer of the Florida Community Association Journal. I'm a published author of Common Sense Community Management and adjunct professor at Palm Beach State College for the pre-licensed course. So for all of you that are on this webinar, you have a huge responsibility. You are the unsung heroes of our industry, and you play an essential role in making the experience great for your community. And it takes a lot of hard work and it takes a lot of skills for you to efficiently run and manage your association. Florida associations now, with the new legislation, are tasked with so many new responsibilities and are subject to criminal penalties if found guilty. So I hope that this course can help you navigate the waters as well as dealing with some of the many challenges that you're faced with. So by the end of the course, I hope that you'll be able to understand the common mistakes made by boards and how they can be avoided, and learn the importance of communication, and teamwork between board members and managers, and gain the insights into effective governance and management practices, and develop strategies specifically for your association to help assist in the effective decision-making process and problem solving. So let's talk about the roles of the board members and the managers. Let's begin discussing how critical it is that a board understands what their primary function is. And their primary function is to govern, while the manager's job is to implement the board's policies. And this really requires a team approach where the board leads, the board works in an advisory capacity, and the manager handles the day-to-day operations. So I always say it's a good idea for the board and the manager, especially if it's a new manager coming on board, or even a new board that's been newly elected, that each of you sit down and make a list of who does what. The manager's role is to build trust and confidence. And also have effective communication strategies. So how can you establish that? Well, you can make sure that you discuss with your board. And if you work for a management company, you can establish how often your board is going to be required to see your manager's report. And there may be specific items that your board wants. It's all about establishing the expectations and understanding when it's time to hire and seek legal counsel and seek professional experts in the industry to guide you. The manager cannot give legal advice. And when it comes to writing certain specifications, you may need to hire an engineer. Hire those experts and professionals. Understand the manager's role is not to carry out those specific tasks. And then the manager is there and licensed to provide the board guidance in policy setting and decision making. And the board of directors, it's good for them to have a clear understanding of what their role is. So let's talk about the team approach and emphasizing the importance of unity, collaboration between board members and managers. Miscommunication can totally derail everything, even though everyone has the best intentions. So this is an excerpt from my book, and I talk about 25 common mistakes boards make. And these are just common things that happen. And as a board member, it's very important that you read your governing documents, your rules, your regulations, and your Florida statutes, and have a full understanding of it. I was thrilled to hear that legislation was passed that boards just don't sign off that they read it and understand it, that they must take a 4-hour class. And I say, if you're on this class, I commend you, because it is so important to continuously obtain and educate knowledge and rely on your experts. These webinar series are here to help support you. So failure to orientate and educate, failure to be prepared for meetings and not following the meeting agenda. I can't tell you how important it is. When I was on site and I was managing properties, I put so much time and effort into my board packet. I wanted my board to have the information in advance so they would be well educated and they could make educated, sound decisions when they came to the board table. So look at the agenda, be prepared, come to the meeting. And if you have any questions prior to the meeting, that's why your board packet is so important. Go to your manager and say, I don't understand this. I think we need to revisit this. Maybe we need another bid. It's really important for you to have a full understanding of what the meeting is going to be about, and each and every agenda item. Now, selective enforcement and failure to uniformly enforce governing documents. If you do not consistently enforce your governing documents, it could be looked upon as selective enforcement. So be very consistent. Make sure that if you have a grievance committee, that they have a full understanding what their responsibilities are, and empower them, because they are the peers, and you have to set a standard, because your job is to maintain the community at a high level, especially if you're in an HOA. Failure to conduct open meetings and elections. Failure to maintain confidentiality and generate gossip. Well, this always seems to happen at the pool. A lot of people that are at the pool, I don't know what it is, but they just seem to generate gossip. And sometimes they'll come to a board member and say, oh, what about this? What about that? But it's your job. You're a board of director. You are on a board of a corporation, and it's your job and your role to maintain that confidentiality and put a stop to that gossip. So how do you do that? I say, again, communication, have a newsletter, a friendly reminder communication, putting a stop to this gossip and giving the information, giving the facts. Have a regular friendly reminder newsletter out there so that everyone is on the same page. Make sure that your website is up to date as well in providing that information. And whenever there's any type of situation where a resident is suffering or there's been a family matter, it's not your place to discuss that with other residents. Number 6, ignoring responsibilities to fulfill fiduciary duties and maintaining the property. Failure to hire experts and professionals in their respective fields. Not capable of making business decisions, particularly due to emotions. Now, I talk about how this entity, this community association, is a corporation. And like I said, you are a board of director. And you have to take the emotion out of it and not make decisions solely on your emotions. Anything that you do, it should not be an emotional transaction. It should be a business transaction. And you should always think about what's best for the community and what is in the best interest for all, and not have a self-agenda. Easily swayed by others and not voting with their conscience. Well, I think that speaks for itself. Micromanaging and abusing their power and authority. I can't tell you how many times I got calls as a regional director that I would get from the managers saying, they won't let me manage. I can't even do my job. The board members in my office all day. This is a no-no. Let the professionals do their jobs. Micromanaging can interfere with the day-to-day operations. Jeff,
Marcy,
did you?
Marcy,
Yes.
you said I could strengthen a point if it came up, and you hit one that's near and dear to me. This is the scene in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, when Spock saves the Enterprise, and what he tells Kirk is that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. And when you talked about easily being swayed by others, not voting with their conscience, micromanaging, or thinking of a board member thinking of themselves, that's not why you get on the board. You get on the board to do what is supposed to be the best for everybody, not just the few or the one. So, Marcy, I just wanted to piggyback on the point you just made with my nerdy Star Trek reference. Anyway, back to you.
No, I love it, Jeff. That's a great analogy, and it makes sense because it is a team effort. It's a team approach. I always say the word unity is in community. It's a collaboration.
Right.
And the abuse of power. I mean, it just seems like it's running rampant. And I have another class where I talk about bullying in associations, and that's a whole nother class. But making sure that you understand that you have a fiduciary duty, and micromanaging is a power trip. I mean, it's abuse, and it is not your job to control everything, because that's just going to result in inefficiency and chaos. So let's talk about conflicts of interest. Now, engaging in self-dealings can severely harm your community's your entire association. It can destroy the trust that your residents have in the board. So be careful if you're hiring a brother-in-law. Be fully transparent, disclose, and when it comes time to vote on that contract and you have a family member that's providing a service, that's when you can abstain. So if you're going to hire someone that creates a conflict of interest, I always say it's best to stay away from that. It's only going to come back and bite you. Harassing and slandering community members. Unfortunately, after the pandemic, we saw Failure to clearly define roles and responsibilities of the board of directors, committee members, and management, and acting unilaterally. So I always say it's great if you've been elected as a board of director. Not only are you going to now be required to take the class, but have an orientation process where you have an internal board orientation that is specific to your community, where you can be briefed on everything you need to know about the community, how you handle sale lease transfers. Are there any restrictions on rentals? Is there a waiting period for rentals? Architectural review board, how is that handled? What are the committee's responsibilities? Every community has its own flavor. So I say it's great if you have a written board orientation packet that everyone could be on the same page. In addition to that, I always like to recommend a board code of conduct. And that way, everyone understands what their responsibilities are and how they conduct themselves as a board member. Failure to obtain 2 signatures on checks. This is so important, especially now. You want to make sure that you have 2 signers. And I know that a lot of the management companies do require that, but if you are self-managed, I always say 2 signers should be standard policy. Failure to understand the financials and budget. Well, your financial is your roadmap. Your budget is your roadmap. Every month when that financial comes out, you should have a treasurer that is extremely savvy and understanding the finances of the association, working closely with your manager and making sure that you are following your protocols in maintaining your funds. And I always say, ask your CPA if you have any questions regarding your financials. It is budget season right now. Now is a really good time to meet with your CPA, talk to your manager, go through every item line by line, review all of your contracts, have a full understanding of the terms and conditions of those contracts, and determine whether or not it's time for you to bid out the services. Failure to follow a consistent collection policy. This is so important, and you can talk to your attorney about this, but look at your delinquencies. Every month when you get that financial report, work with your CPA and your attorney, ensuring that you have a consistent collection policy and know when it's time to send out that demand letter. Failure to act professionally, courteously, and respectfully at meetings. I had a situation where I had to call the police. I had many.
Well, it looks like Marcy will be right back as she is having some technical difficulties. Let her, Marielle's going to text her right now to make sure that she's on her way back in. And in the meantime, I could answer a couple of the questions
Jeff,
aloud
could you
that
also
do
just
not.
reiterate the evaluation form? Because we have a bunch of people that joined after I was able to mention that.
Okay, we'll do that in just a sec here. Let's see the evaluation form later, a little bit later on, we're going to place the link into the chat area. So if you are not currently seeing the chat area, please press the chat button and it will appear. Now it may say the chat is disabled. That just means that you cannot send chat to others or to us, but we can send stuff to you guys. So the way you are communicating with us, with Marcy or Marielle or myself, is by using the Q&A for questions. And so please press the chat button so you see it in the Zoom interface on the lower right-hand corner as we wait for Marcy to reappear. There was a question here that I'd love to answer because it does not require a legal opinion or a legal answer. And Jerry's asking, do boards usually go out looking for contractors, or do they have the manager get the various contractors, electrical, mechanical, roofing, fire, etc.? And the way I answered that one is there's no magic bullet answer for this one. In my experiences, it has been a little bit of both. Sometimes, as well, boards or committees will compile a list and have the CAM do the research, get the info, and bring that information back to the board. Sometimes the board will have the CAM do it all, then bring back the info and recommendation to the board. So again, there's really no one answer. Look and see what your rules and regs on your documents say and all. But again, for anything that you're just not sure about, it's always best to ask your association counsel. And Marcy's back. Before we thank you, Eric. I'll do a tour one day. And Joan, what was the Star Trek quote again? It's Mr. Spock when he's on the other side of the chamber to save the Enterprise so that radiation doesn't get out. He knows he's about to die to save everybody else. And he said the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. And to me, that's a microcosm. That is the perfect saying for community association living. It's all about the needs of the many, not about the needs of the one. And with that, our superstar speaker is back. Marcy, take it back away. We held down the fort for you.
Yeah, we
Thank
can see
you.
your screen, Marcy.
That was really strange. Well,
No
I'm back.
worries.
Well, thank you. Sorry for the interruption, but thanks for holding down the fort. So let's talk about getting everybody on the same page. And rather than make decisions to just make decisions, I mean, for yourself, you have to think about what's best for everyone. And in order to gain the board's trust as a manager, again, outline what the expectations are. As I was saying, it's budget season. Come up with your wish list. Talk about what, as a manager, what you feel is necessary to manage. And take a look now, especially now, at your reserve studies and determine how much money is going to be necessary to fund certain components in your community. And realistically, sit down with your boards and let your boards know that this is what it's going to take to manage the association. And this is our wish list. Meet with staff, talk to your staff. The board also needs to understand that you are overseeing an entire operation and each department needs certain things in order to operate. And you want to make sure that they have the tools that they need to succeed. Failure to post notices, newsletters, and memos communicating the board's activities. Again, communication, so important to make sure that everyone is on the same page. And if you have a community channel, that's a perfect opportunity for you to provide information. If you have an app, community apps are great. The website, e-blasts, very important so that everyone is on the same page. Failure to be open-minded by not listening. I can't tell you how much I appreciate when residents give feedback, and board members need to be open-minded and listen to what the residents' wants and needs are. Yes, you are elected to represent the membership, but you have to think about, again, what's in the best interest for the community members and get some feedback. Do a survey. Failure to review and evaluate contracts properly to decide on and when maintenance tasks will be performed. I'm really big on hiring experts to do the job. Say you have a roof that's up for maintenance and you don't have an inspection that's done on a yearly basis, you should consider getting all your equipment, including your roof, under some sort of an agreement that it's a constant where they inspect it and they maintain it. So whether it be like a cooling tower, don't just wait till things break. Be proactive. Preventative maintenance is key. Review your contracts. Make sure that especially with elevators now too, you want to make sure that you have proper maintenance and make sure that you have the experts. You may want to hire a consultant to ensure that that contract is providing the proper preventative maintenance, and have your manager help you with this. because managers have a much clearer and better understanding, and less breakdowns for them is less headaches. Failure to plan, focus, and follow through. Strategic planning sessions. I am so big on putting together a strategic planning session, and this way it's the roadmap. And if the board changes, the manager can say, look, this is what we have on the strategic plan. This is what we anticipate that we are going to need, and this is what's on the roadmap for the next upcoming year, 3 years, 5-year plan. Failure to make timely decisions. I find this happens a lot when associations are looking to remodel their lobby and high rises. It can get to be a drawn out process. Put together a timeline. Let everyone know this is the timeline for the project. This is, and have your committee understand what the timeline is and understand what the expectations are. As a board, you are going to be giving your committee specific instructions and details as to what you want them to accomplish, so you can come to the board table and make an educated decision on that project. Timely decisions are very important. I had a situation with a lobby renovation, and it took them 2 years to finally come to terms as to what they wanted. And by the time they made the decision, a lot of those furnishings and finishes were no longer available. So they had to go back to the drawing board. Attempts to institute new policies and ground rules without doing their research. So important. Get your legal counsel involved if you're going to adopt a new policy. If you're going to have a policy resolution, get the information from your attorney and work from there. You may want to develop a committee, an ad hoc committee, specifically to help you adopt new policies and procedures. So I briefly went over the 25 common mistakes boards make, and let's move on. I hope some of my real life examples help demonstrate some of the mistakes in action. And I did have one situation where I had a board member fail to educate themselves on the local regulations, leading to costly legal disputes. And this president took it upon himself to unilaterally make decisions without knowledge of the board or the manager and sign contracts. And it was a mess and very costly. Okay, so let's talk about effective board management. Now, again, we talked about communication, transparency, being prepared, agenda management. How many times have you gone to the board table and you go through the agenda and it's the same agenda items that just spill over month to month? That is not very efficient. It's important for you as a board member to work with your manager. Let your manager do the job. The management reports are super important to keep you as a board member informed. And if the manager's having any types of struggles getting the information, then be open-minded to listen to your manager and understand why these agenda items just keep spilling over and why decisions can't be made. Consistent enforcement of the rules and the policies. Like I said, you don't want to just selectively decide, okay, now we're going to give violations for parking in the common areas overnight, and it's a tow-away zone. I mean, all of a sudden now you decide you're going to enforce that rule. I say be consistent on enforcement and making sure, especially when it comes to sending out violation letters, that it's consistent throughout the community. We talked about maintaining confidentiality and professionalism, open-mindedness and community engagement, planning, focusing, and following through on decisions. Again, that shows that as a board, you really have things together when you plan and you execute. You are elected to be a mover and a shaker, and your job is to get things done. And strategic planning, wish lists, like I talked about, are so critical. Talk about, once you all are elected, have a strategic planning session and discuss what are the overall goals of the association. Are you looking to do structural work? Is there, like I said, like a new roof needs to be put on? Get the information from your manager. Trust that your manager has a pulse on everything and anything in the community, and let your manager give that wish list, that guide you to help you get to where you need to go. And when it comes to the funding, let them go out for bid, because they know who's vetted, and especially if they're involved in the CAI, the Community Association Institute, or if you get the Florida Community Association Journal, those vendors are specific to serving the needs of community associations, and your manager is familiar with them. And like we talked about, avoid micromanaging. So setting clear expectations for everyone's role, outline them, have everyone sign off, respect one another, the professionalism in the community. It starts at the top. Always think about what's best for everyone else. I know sometimes it can be hard as a board member, because you have something that you've been wanting to do in your community for a long time. And like, maybe it's installing a pickleball court, but that might be something that may not be good for everyone, because it's in the area that you want to convert to a pickleball court might be in close proximity to other homes, and it may become a sound noise issue. Do your homework. Take a look at other communities that have gone through similar situations, and continuously educate yourselves. And not just for the 4 hours, but training. There's so much training out there. There's YouTube videos. There's lots of vendors and business partners that are able to provide you with the education that you need. Things are changing. There's all kinds of trends and challenges, and the laws are changing. So as a board member and as a manager, it's important for both of you to learn together. I highly recommend that you attend condo and HOA expos and invite all of your board members to come. That's a good time for you to learn all the new trends, technology, equipment, and services, products and services. So boards should lead, and they should serve in an advisory capacity. They should not be managing the day-to-day operations. It's important to read the statutes, your governing documents, your rules and regulations, so you can make informed decisions. The manager's role is to handle the day-to-day activities. I once had a board president sit in my office all day, and it was just unbearable. I couldn't get anything done. And I said, look, I appreciate that you want to be here, and I appreciate that you care. And if you want, we can set a time once a week to establish what the expectations are, what your goals are. And I know you represent all of the board members, but you have to get their feedback as well. And I actually got up from my chair and I said, maybe I need to go home and you need to sit here. And that was a wake-up call for that president. And that president said, you're absolutely right, Marcy, I need to go back to my life and enjoy living on the ocean and hang out on the beach. And I totally trust that you're going to provide me the information. And I said, look, why don't I do this? I'll give you, this is when I had first started with this association. I will give you a daily report in writing, and I'll give it to the entire board. And then any feedback that you have, I'm open to listen. And we can do this for the next couple weeks. And then we'll do once a week. And then even if you want, I'll meet with you twice a week if necessary. But at this point, we need to help each other. We need to support each other. We need to have the respect and the trust. So John Carver says the board is responsible for creating the future, not minding the shop. So how do you create a positive community? Well, it's your job as a board member to make decisions that are going to have a lasting impact on the community. Think about what the impact and what the end result is going to be when you're making your decisions. And come up with those long-term goals. What is it that you want to establish to enhance the community and the quality of life for your residents? And encourage environmentally friendly actions within the community to benefit the environment, reduce costs, and enhance the overall community well-being. You may want to, if you haven't already done so, you may want to take a look at LED lighting in your community. You may want to take a look at using reclaimed water for irrigation. These are all sustainable practices that can help support your community for the long term. And what is your mission? I always say it's great for the board to sit down and have a vision and mission and put it together on paper. Clearly define what the vision and mission of the board is to guide all your actions and your decisions so that you're all collectively working together. It is a team approach, and leaders must provide consistency, and they must show that they're reliable and that there's stability so that your residents can rely on you and trust you. And transparent communication. Always, always, like we talked about, communication. Be there to listen, maintain that open and transparent communication with all of your community members about board activities and decisions. And those friendly reminders of letting everyone know what the expectation is. If it's time to mulch, if it's time to landscape, redo your landscape, give them some tips and tricks to guide them, and work with your manager. So safety. I'm always taking a look at the community and making sure that there's no trip and fall hazards, making sure that the pool has everything that it needs. There aren't any pavers that are coming up. Implement policies and initiatives that ensure the safety and well-being of your residents, and empower your manager to do this as a board. Your manager is there to guide you. Community engagement. I always say organize social events, encourage resident participation, have a pool party. Maybe you want to have a happy hour. It's great to engage residents, and having these social events in a relaxed setting, you can earn the trust of the residents and talk to them rather than in a formal setting at a board meeting. You'll be able to get to know them better and get to know what their wants and needs are, and have your manager be there as well. And then conduct regular assessments of community needs. And I always like to proactively use the SWOT analysis. For those of you who don't know what a SWOT analysis is, it stands for, well, I just had a blank, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So I always like to evaluate things using the SWOT analysis, and that is identify what are the strengths of your community. What are the weaknesses of your community? Maybe you have lack of funding. Maybe it's time to consider special assessment if there are needs that you're not able to meet. And unfortunately, that is something that we have to do. Then we have the opportunities. What are your opportunities? Maybe there's some really strong people in the community that are professionals in certain areas that can help contribute to a committee. And what are your threats? What are some of the things that you're facing? A lot of our communities are aging. Not only is the equipment aging, but we're seeing that a lot of our residents are aging. So at this point, it's important to evaluate what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are your opportunities, and what are your threats.
And Marcy, you mentioned about getting people involved in such, getting committees formed. And there were a few people who typed in questions on there. I know you're getting the questions later, but this can address several people at one time. So Marielle, we could probably delete these from the message queue after we briefly talk about this. One of the ways to get what I like to affectionately call, for lack of a better term, a problem person, somebody loud at meetings, or somebody who's always causing a ruckus, or always saying, why don't you do it this way, or why don't you do it that way? I would just say, hey, I'm going to put you on a committee. Make that person part of the problem, again, for lack of a better term. Let them see what it's like to be on the other side as somebody who's collaborating to help make decisions. But anyway, you made that point, Marcy. I just wanted to throw that out there because there were a lot of people asking about what do you do about loud and ruckus people at meetings. I say make a game out of it, put them on a committee, make them come up with the answers.
Yes. I can tell you that I've had my share of residents that we've actually had to ask them to leave, and we've had to call security.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to conduct business, and if they're going to interfere with the board's ability to conduct business, then they shouldn't be there. We've actually had to go to the extreme and have a cease and desist letter drafted for them to no longer be able to come back to the meeting and unless they agree to behave. But anyway, let's get back to examples of some positive initiatives that you can implement in your community. So developing and maintaining your parks, gardens, recreational areas. I know in my community, we added some benches. Some communities are now growing their own plants and vegetables. They've created some walking and biking paths and promoting outdoor activities, healthy living and wellness, having like a Zumba class or yoga classes on the pool deck. I mean, these are some of the things that you can do, examples of some positive initiatives. And those holiday celebrations, block parties are great. I know we have a Halloween party. We have one with a bounce house for the kids. I mean, we have an ice cream truck come to the community. You may want to host a community cleanup. May even want to just go off-site and do a beach cleanup as a community to help build some camaraderie. And also consider maybe even having a book club. Some other positive initiatives. I'm a real tech junkie, and I can tell you that I'm really into technology enhancements for communities. And in fact, some of my boards looked at me like I was crazy when I talked about, a fob, putting installing fobs in the community. Like, what's a fob? What do we need that for? But installing smart security systems, enhancing your safety, monitoring. I know in my community, we have a virtual guard system. We also monitor the pool area after hours. Providing any type of Wi-Fi in your common areas can increase your residents to want to come to the pool. If you have Wi-Fi at the pool, that will help improve their connectivity, and installing fiber optics. And I can't talk enough about how future-proofing your community is so important, and how these technology enhancements also help improve your property values. And having a future-proof internet infrastructure is so important. Educational programs, workshops, health and wellness seminars, organizing all kinds of classes, promoting environmental awareness, establishing, fitness centers and wellness classes, creating relaxation, maybe have some meditation gardens or a quiet room, and partner with some local professionals that may want to come and offer some health services. I know one of my communities, we had a skin scan night where we had a dermatologist come in. So these are all great positive initiatives, improving your amenities, ensuring that your amenities are accessible and well-maintained, and some other amenities that you may want to add, like I said, a pickleball court, but do your homework, and a dog park. And also check with your insurance agent before you install any new types of amenities. Again, regularly survey your residents, gather their opinion, get their feedback, create those committees. Committees are great because you're getting feedback from the actual residents, and they're going to provide their input on what projects they feel are needed. And then hold a town hall meeting. And this is really great for open dialogue. Managers and boards should work together in aligning on those shared goals and priorities. And managers are going to help you implement policies. They also can rely on their constituents to get some feedback on what works and what doesn't work. They are going to ensure that you're following consistently and that you're getting the right information, and they're going to help you research it so that before you go out for that project, they're able to talk to their peers to find out who they were happy with. Establish a feedback loop where residents can voice their concerns and suggestions addressed by the board or the management. You may have like an app that works or a resident portal where they're able to provide their feedback. That's always a great, like a software program that you're able to have your residents get on the app and provide their input. We talked about ethical conduct, and I always say it's great to have a board code of conduct so everyone is on the same page. Board members should not accept gifts, favors, loans, or gratuities, and they shouldn't be doing anything for their own financial gain, and they should refrain from threatening others, and there should never be any defamation or harassment. And like I said, we have to agree to disagree and disclose those conflicts of interest, especially if it's going to have to go to a vote. Before the vote, those decisions need to be made transparently. And be proactive. Like I said, recognize what the potential problems are and talk to your manager. Your manager has a clear understanding, and in their management report, they're able to give you the communication so there aren't any surprises. And then the manager should review the budget and work with either a finance committee and the treasurer and talk about what what some of the challenges are. And like I said, always rely on your professionals. That's what they're there for. Before you make any major decisions, talk to your accountant, your attorney, your insurance agent, your engineer. And be prepared for the board meeting. Make sure that you read your board package in advance, identify questions, stay informed, prepare for your meeting so your meeting can be productive. Make timely decisions, enhance accountability. We talked about the management reports, the feedback loop, continuous improvement, and setting clear expectations. Measuring your performance. Establish measurable, achievable, and relevant goals for the board. Always conduct a periodic evaluation and determine where you're at so you can gauge it and determine maybe we need to not do this and maybe we need to move on to this. You may need to reevaluate what are the priorities in the community. It's all about teamwork. Again, we talked about tasks, delegation of tasks to the appropriate committees, organizing those training sessions. Bring in your CPA, bring in your insurance agent, educate your board members. Managers, you have a wealth of knowledge. There's so much you can do to help guide your board members. So we talked about roles and responsibilities, collaborating, staying informed, continuous learning. And for the sake of time, once again, benefits of effective communication, your communication tools, managing emotions, and making sure that you understand that this is a business transaction, not an emotional transaction, and just stay level-headed and listen. Foster an environment where your members trust you and they respect you and they feel that they're being heard. Went through all of these things. Just a summary here is that we want to promote harmonious and productive relationships. It's all about teamwork. It's all about respect. It's all about continuous education. And I thank you for being here today to learn more about how you can become a better board member and working with your managers, because your manager plays a crucial role in facilitating that communication and providing that expertise, that professionalism, promoting the teamwork, ensuring that everyone is held accountable. And they're there to also help you manage those emotions and keep things in check. And by working together, having a shared mission, having a shared vision, having that mutual respect, both boards and managers can effectively serve their communities and earn that trust. On behalf of Hotwire, I want to say thank you for having me today. I hope you learned something. We are an independent fiber optics company. We've been around since 2002. We serve community associations just like yours. And when your telecommunications contract is up for renewal, please keep us in mind. I'd love to talk to you about my experience when I was a manager. Hotwire was always there to provide me with that concierge level service. And being a tech nerd, I can tell you that Hotwire has a dedicated account manager that comes to visit you every couple weeks, and you get to know that person. They're an extension of you to help you serve your community. Now for Q&A, Jeff, I'm ready.
Well, we'll get to let's do the Q&A in just a moment. Before we do that, Marcy, you have about 10 more minutes, right? We advertised, I think, to 12:15. So just give me 2 more minutes, and I just want to go over the evaluation process for anybody who cannot stick around for this part. We want you to stick around, but it's not required. The Q&A is not required. But so real quick, the link is now in the chat. When you click on that link, this will open up in a browser. This is the evaluation form. Please fill this out in order to be able to request a certificate or course materials from Marcy, as well as there's a slot when you choose what you are over here in number 5, which of the following best describes you? Board member Cam, but also on my board. So either one of those, if you click on Cam, then you have another section at the bottom that appears where you enter your name as it appears on DBPR record. You want it to match how you submitted it with the division. And then there's a section here to enter your CAM license number. Please put in the numbers only, not the CAM number, just the numbers. And then after you hit submit, this is the confirmation screen of a successful submission. It's got Marcy's contact information right here as promised, and that's where you can request course materials, such as slides or whatever else that Marcy is able to share with you. So that's where you'll email to request stuff like that. Then we have a link about the next ACE webinar. Hotwire's website can be found here, and then ACE by TSK's website here. Again, apologies for a lot of the promotional stuff that we're talking about, but with an organization like ours, it's the sponsors and the partners such as Hotwire that make this free for everybody. So keep that in mind. So, Marcy, have you had a chance to look over some of the questions, or would you like me to and Marielle to spout them out? How do you prefer?
If you want to spout them out, and again, I also want to thank all of you at ACE by TSK by providing these wonderful, informative webinar series. And I really appreciate you having me today. And this was the first time that I taught this class. I know I kind of rushed through at the end because I thought we were going to be done by 12. I wanted to have enough time for Q&A. So I'm glad that we're able to get to the questions.
Yeah. Thanks for agreeing to speak today as well. And Marielle, I'll handle the first question here. This is something that I would highly advise you speak with your association counsel about, but the first couple of questions from Dulcia: can a board member who owns a screening company do the screening of the tenants? And then the second part is, can a board member who owns a construction company provide repairs for the association? I'm not an attorney. Marcy's not an attorney. So keep that in mind when we offer our thoughts. Marcy?
Well, I always say that it's if you have someone that you know is licensed and insured, and they've served other community associations well, then fully disclose it. And like Jeff said, speak to legal counsel before you entertain a contract with them. Always
Yeah.
seek legal counsel, because if something, but here's the way I look at it. And again, it's the common sense community management part of me. If something goes wrong, I mean, this is your home. And so, especially when it's a big project, things always go wrong. There's always going to be something, or there may be change orders or unforeseen things that come up. And your neighbors are going to look to you like, and I hate to say this, but like you've got your hand out or you're getting something from it. And that's just a fact of life in community associations. People are going to come up with crazy stories and they're going to point the finger at you. Think about whether or not you want to encounter that, because it happens.
Yeah, we know that's not a clear magic bullet type of answer, but look at what your documents say, speak with your association counsel, and whatever happens, even if it's something that is permitted, always be transparent and disclose who the company is and what the relationship is with the person who lives or helps run the community. Just keep it fully transparent.
I also want to mention, Jeff, I'm getting a lot of emails from everyone. You will receive a copy of the slides. So don't worry about that. And make sure that you did provide your CAM license number so that I can give you credit.
So this one, thanks for saying that, Marcy. That is coming up a lot. Stephen is asking, this might be more of a comment than a question. We are self-managed and 99% of our expenses are paid by AutoPay or ACH. We found this is the most efficient way to pay vendors and utilities. So we do not have a policy of dual signatures, but our bank reconciliation reports are available to all owners. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that's fine. I highly encourage associations to get all their utilities on ACH to avoid any delays in payment.
Our management company's CEO is also a board member. Is this a conflict of interest? That goes with what we just answered earlier, or I shouldn't say answered, we commented upon. Be very careful, see what your docs say, and speak with your association counsel. That is not like having a roofer. That's a little bit, that's another level in my opinion. Michelle asks how to handle the mysterious, in quotes, the mysterious group that uses a meme that distributes misinformation to members with a list that was given by a secretary that was removed from office. No name was ever signed, so we do not know who the author is. Marcy, I have my thoughts. What are yours?
I'd love to hear your thoughts first.
Well, this is a prime example of why I never, ever, I do some association consulting, as most of you know. I work with attorneys, as most of you know. I would never, ever recommend when, for example, a board member says, hey, should we have a Facebook group for our association, or should we have some kind of a public forum for our association? And I never recommend stuff like that, because that is just almost like an open invitation. The association does it. We should have our own group. And then you have groups like that where the administrator has total control and can turn off comments and can put whatever the heck they want on there. So how to handle it is what the question is. How do you handle something like that? You educate your community to let them know where the official source of information is to be coming from. You let them know that these social media groups are not the official group of the association. You provide, like Marcy said earlier, be transparent, no selective enforcement, avoid conflicts of interest. Let everybody know what you're doing once you know what it is. And granted, okay, as somebody on the field that I have been, like Marcy has for many, many years. We started when we were 10, right, Marcy? We started when we were really young. That's so we won't say how long we've been doing it, but let's just say, and pardon my language here, sometimes boards and cams, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. You know, you can let somebody know every step of a process before you have a final decision. But if you put out every step of the process, you may then be accused of, why are you telling us now? You haven't made a decision yet. But then if you don't, and you wait until you're ready to provide, 3 or 4 choices, people will say, this is the damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. If you wait, then they'll say, why don't you let us know as you were going? So it's like, well, what do you do? So just be as transparent as possible. Give the information that you can legally, and let everybody know what's official and what is not officially endorsed by the association or the board of directors. That was a long-winded answer. Marcy, what are your thoughts?
I'm on the same page. I'm right there with you. And I've spoken to several attorneys about this, and social media poses several risks and challenges. And just like you said, Jeff, it is not the forum to provide information for the association. It is not the official business platform. And it definitely can create misinformation, and it can spread quickly, and it only leads to confusion. So, and misunderstandings among residents. And I know because I am a moderator for Nextdoor for my community. And I started it only because I wanted people to share best practices in hiring vendors and helping each other with, living in the community. But when it comes to the official business of the association, absolutely not. I do not encourage that you create a Facebook page. It is not. And I've spoken to several attorneys and they agree.
Yeah.
Plus, there's also some privacy issues too, sharing personal information on those platforms. There's privacy violations. It could cause a lot of discomfort for residents.
Yeah. And I know that person mentioned, how do you handle a situation like that? Well, you handle it by letting everybody know what the official revenue information source is. Where do you get the official information? And let everybody know that whatever is happening is not officially endorsed, is not endorsed by the association, nor does it represent the current board.
Marielle, do you have any other questions for me?
We do have a few more questions, if you're up for it.
Sure. I hope Jeff can jump back on because
Yeah, he'll jump back on. So we have one from Elia. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. It says, our priority is now to comply with all those new laws and requirements Florida government is putting upon us. No time for anything else. I guess this is not really so much a question.
A statement, yes.
Yeah, and totally...
because you are subject to criminal penalties, it's so important that you seek legal counsel to help you and have your manager guide you in making sure that you're in compliance.
We have another one, and you did really touch on this earlier for Lou. How do you deal with homeowners who are abusive towards board members? You did really touch on this, and you had some good suggestions. So you'd like to reiterate, otherwise we can go to another question.
Yeah. The documents allow for you for enforcement. And if anyone is in violation of the documents, and that would include, not respecting one another and harassment, then I would definitely send like a warning letter. And if it continues, then seek legal counsel to provide a cease and desist letter, because there should be zero tolerance for that type of behavior. I mean, people move to community associations because they want to have a harmonious living environment. And if someone is disrupting that, then they need to be put in their place.
Let's see. Oh, there's Jeff. Kind of late, but our manager is supposed to organize the social events. A good one.
So I always like to say that your manager is so busy, and even more so now. I would highly recommend that you appoint a committee, because social events require a lot of work when it comes to the planning of the event and the actual event day. Having the committee is going to help support you in so many ways. And of course, everything should be brought back to the manager, because for budget reasons, the manager needs to manage the budget. But if you can get a social committee in place, I highly recommend it.
Are your trainings universal or only directed towards Florida laws? And I don't know how much legal advice we gave in this course, or really at all. So from my standpoint, I believe a lot of this information is applicable across state lines. And then of course, you know, state by state, you're gonna consult your attorney based on the regulations for that state.
Absolutely, Marielle. And CAI has picked up my book, because even though it is a compilation of articles that I've written over the years that are basically geared for Florida, they felt strongly that a lot of the information is universal, but I do specify specific laws for Florida. But when it comes to governance, I mean, across the board, I know Hotwire, we're now in 10 states. So I've had the opportunity to speak to others that are in other parts of the country. And it seems like it's pretty universal the way we all manage our associations. It's just different laws in different states.
And then last question is, I've heard that some HOAs do away with the fining process for violations. What are your thoughts?
Well, there's got to be a consequence. I can't see how you can do away with fining. How do you get people to comply? When it hits their pocketbook, that's when they're going to comply. Again, I always encourage, if you have the opportunity to put together, and always seek legal counsel. I mean, we just did this in my HOA, and KBR did a great job, Lisa McGill, by the way, drafting our policies and procedures and establishing a hearing committee, the fining, the violation policy. She even drafted the letters. It was such a comprehensive package.
Very
And
nice.
especially with laws July 1st, we wanted to make sure that we were proactive in establishing our fining policies.
Okay. That looks like it will do it for this session. I just want to reiterate, if you haven't grabbed the evaluation form in the chat, we're going to stay on for an extra couple minutes to make sure you guys have access to that. Make sure to fill out that evaluation form, because for today, if you don't, you won't receive the credit that you're due for attending. And I just want to say thank you so much to Marcy. You always do such a fantastic job. You've appeared a few times in this summer series, each time with a brand new topic, all equally as interesting and valuable. And so if you guys haven't participated with us, or you missed those sessions, you can find them on acebytsk.com under our resources center. And I encourage you to check them out, share them with your colleagues, with your boards, because they're extremely valuable. So thank you so much again, Marcy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all for having me, and thank you to the audience for taking the time out of your busy schedule to learn something new.